All right. So we are studying Kena Upanishad. This Upanishad also, like the previous Upanishad, Isha Upanishad, has got lot of paradoxes, intriguing language, surprises for us. So as we saw, the student asks the teacher, what is that invisible entity which drives our sense organs, our mind, and our vital energy? The teacher said, yes, your intuition is correct. There is such an immortal entity which is behind everything. It is consciousness, and it is different from body mind complex, but it pervades the body mind complex, and it is what makes them what they are. That is, it is because of it, everything else is functioning. And through spiritual intelligence, the wise ones discern that spiritual entity from the body mind complex, and they transcend the material existence, their finite finitude. They transcend their finitude and realize their limitless, vast nature that we saw. Okay. And this instruction continues. Instruction continues. Now, mantra number 1.3. So we shall today take up two mantras, 1.3, 1.4, 3 and 4. Okay. These are very oft quoted mantras and profound mantras too. Mantra 1.3 says, Na tatra cakṣur gacchati, na vāk gacchati, no manaḥ, na vidmo, na vijānīmo, yathā, etat, anuśiṣyāt. Wonderful mantra. Cakṣuhu, the eyes, na, cannot, gacchati, reach there. There means, which there means that spiritual entity. Vāk, the speech, na, cannot, gacchati, reach there. No, nor manaḥ, the mind. Vidmo, we know, no, not. We know not that reality. No, no, nor vijānīmo, do we know, yathā, how to, anuśiṣyāt, instruct, etat, about it. So this is wonderful. The eye cannot reach there. The speech cannot reach there, nor the mind. We don't know that reality, nor do we know how to instruct about it. So this is the teacher is accepting the difficulty of instructing about something which is very difficult to convey through words, which is difficult to verbalize. So let's take a look at the deeper meanings of the mantra. Okay. So we have to know two things here, very interesting. One is, how do we know about unknown things? Okay. How we know unknown things. One is a description or indication, characteristics about that thing. Someone tells us, well, you don't know what it is. It is like this. Okay, these are the indications about the thing. Second is I have to personally experience or perceive the thing, right? First, I hear or read or learn about the characteristics of the thing. Then I go and personally see it, touch it, feel it, read it, or sense it, whatever it is. For example, a child, you may not know what a newspaper is. So I may say, well, go to the next room and bring a newspaper. The child may be asking, what is a newspaper? Then I tell the child, well, a newspaper will be like this. It will be mostly probably on the table. It will look like this, and it will be wide. There will be printed things and pictures. Well, the child has the baby or whatever, child, the kid, the get an idea through the indications. Then actually the kid has to go to the next room and find it, see it, right? Suppose there is total darkness, the child cannot see it. Or maybe say an old person whom I told about something, having some difficulties with their eyes. They could not see it, although it was there. So both the things are necessary. One is indications, number two, actual perception. In Sanskrit, these are called, indications are called lakshana. Lakshana means which indicates. It is not the thing itself, but it is the indicator. And the perception is called pramana. Pramana. So pramana, why it is called prama means in Sanskrit, prama means knowledge. Prama, okay, knowledge. And pramana means through which we gather knowledge. Okay, so I is a pramana. That is, perception is a pramana. Then inference, inference. I have not seen directly, but I can infer. And through inference, I can get some knowledge, right? Right? For example, suppose one of you is wearing a heavy coat and have come to the class. So although I have not been to, say, Placerville or New York, but I can infer it is very cold today, probably there. Suppose you are wearing something heavy coat. So that is also, through that also I get a knowledge. Inference. So Sanskrit, there is a wonderful sentence. We don't have to know it, but interesting. Who are enthusiastic about Sanskrit, in logic, nyaya. Nyaya is a school of Indian philosophy which wants to establish everything through logic. So they say, lakshana pramanabhyam vastu siddhi nacha pratigya matram. Nacha pratigya matram means just by assertion, you cannot prove something. Just by assertion. You need two things. One is indication, and second is a valid means of knowledge. Okay. So about everything we unknown, this is how we get knowledge. First, we get an indication, characteristics of the thing, and then we actually go check the indications, it match, and then we get knowledge of the unknown thing, right? So in the previous verse, the teacher told the student asked about what is that mysterious reality which is driving our mind, our senses. And the teacher said, it is the eye of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind. So what he gave or she gave, if the teacher was a lady teacher, the teacher what was giving indications about the reality which the student wanted to know, right? It's giving indications. It is the eye of the eye, mind of the, these are the indications. So the next thing the student might want to do is, well, I have got the indications. Now let me find it out. Let me find it out. And how would I find it out? The way I have known other things, I would try to see it. I would try to touch it, or I would try to infer about its presence. To negate all of this, that none of your other methods of collecting knowledge will work here. To negate this, the teacher says, the eyes don't go there. The ears don't go there. The mind does not go there. Okay, because every other thing, this is how we get the knowledge. The eye goes on, fall on something. The ear picks up on some knowledge, and the mind grasps it. So in this sentence, the teacher is probably within this mantra, the teacher understood I have given some indication. Now, what I am, lest the student thinks, okay, I have got indication, then how to perceive the thing? You have given me some characteristics. So teacher wants to say that none of your known methods of knowing things will work here. Okay, none of your pramanas, other means of knowledge, will work here. That is why the teacher is saying, eyes don't go there, mind does not go there. Okay, so that what the teacher is essentially trying to say, that spiritual entity about which you are inquiring is not objectifiable, not objectifiable, right? Because knowing, grasping something means objectifying it. But that spiritual entity cannot be objectified in that sense. Acharya Shankara says here that as the fire burns and illumines other things, but does not burn and illumine itself, so is the spiritual reality, which reveals other things, through which we get knowledge about other things, because of which the eyes sees, the ear hears, the mind functions, but itself cannot be known, cannot be objectified. Now, do you recall something like this we read in Isha Upanishad, one of the mantras?
I don't remember the verse, but
Which one? Which one?
I don't remember the number, Maharaj, but it says
yes.
Things come back from, they don't reach, but they come back.
Yes, exactly. Right. Isha Upanishad mantra 4. Naina deva apnuvan pūrveṣāṃ. The sense organs cannot reach it because the thing has already, the sense organs go and find that the thing is already there. Okay. In this language, it told the sense organs cannot reach it because it has already there. Wherever the sense organs go, they find the thing is already there. In this language, Isha Upanishad tried to convey the same meaning, that it is that spiritual entity cannot be objectified the way other things we objectify. Not only that, is why the teacher says, we do not know that reality. That is, we do not know the reality as we know other everyday thing. Now, vidmo, we do not know. Okay, the teacher saying we do not know that reality. Then the question will become, then why, then what the discussion is? We do not know. We do not know, or we cannot know that reality. Why Upanishad? What is the purpose of the Upanishad? Well, there are nuances in this not knowing. We shall see. Not knowing means what? Okay. In the next verse, it will be explained later on. The teacher says, we do not know that reality. That means we do not know that reality as we know any other things. Secondly, now we do not also know how to instruct about it. Since it cannot be shown to the student, it is difficult to instruct about it. The teacher is expressing their humility. Okay, because whenever there is a communication going on, we are using, say, words, and the meanings of those words, it is understood that you also understand, I also understand those words. We are in a same frame of mind to understand those words. But the teacher is trying to express some reality which is very difficult to express if somebody has no experience about it. That is why teacher says, we do not know how to instruct about it. Not only that we do not know the thing, we don't know how to instruct about it because it is such a challenge, such a challenge. In fact, if we read Sri Ramakrishna's, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, very often he says that I had so many spiritual experiences, but I find it very difficult to express. Very difficult to express. I don't find words. I don't find words to express all of them. So, and we find that in every spiritual traditions, for every mystics struggles to convey what their experience is like. So that's why they take the use or the they take the recourse of similes, analogies, right? Metaphors to indicate, to give an idea of that experience because it is beyond words, ineffable experience. Very often we find that having that experience is like melting in the ocean, melting in the ocean. So this is a metaphor for having that experience. Since it is difficult to express this experience or that reality, so the teacher is telling, we do not know how to express this. So it is not easy to teach the spiritual knowledge the way one teaches other subjects. But the student can be helped and guided towards it. If the student is alert, sufficiently alert, and if the student has capacity to learn from suggestive hints, then the student can be guided about that spiritual knowledge. And that is what the teacher does in the next mantra. The teacher says, I shall help you with a few hints. I shall help you by giving you a few hints. That is mantra, next mantra. Okay, any question about this mantra? Okay, the Naya maxim, Naya, someone asks, what is the maxim? Lakshana pramana bhyam vastu siddhi. Nacha pratigya matram. You can unmute yourself and ask any question or clarification if you want about the mantra that we have just read. All right, take your time. Maybe after, yes, teacher says he does not know it. Is he what? Oh, you cannot unmute. Okay. Mute. Allow participants. Yes, yes, yes.
He says, teacher says in the translation, we do not know. He says, I does not go there, nor speech, nor mind. We do not know. Hence, we are not aware of process of instructing about it. Isn't he realized? So why does he say we do not know?
We do not know. Yes, we say that there is nuances in that.
Huh.
Nuance in that. We do not know means we do not know that reality as you understand as know what knowledge means. Okay. So knowledge about spiritual entity, our self or soul, Brahman, that all-pervading spirit, cannot be called in knowledge, knowing. Okay. Knowing per se. Knowing presupposes a subject and an object. An object, But Brahman is not an object. So here the teacher is coming down to the level of the student to whom to know something means to objectify it. In that sense, the teacher is saying, we do not know that thing. Okay. But it will be clarified later on. What does it mean?
Yeah, I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you don't know, you be it, you become it. You don't know it, but you become.
Yeah.
Swami,
Yes.
could it be that because we, you just said something about the senses reach out for it, but find it's already there. So in order for us to know it, we first have to separate it from everyday experience, even though everyday experience is in it all the time.
Indeed. In fact, next mantra will be a greater hint. And in fact, what you are telling, it will come later part of the Upanishad. That although it is not known, but it is to be found in every knowledge. In every bit of cognition, we are actually touching it. It is present. Okay, that is why it is so difficult. It is so difficult. It is like with the tip of finger, you can touch everything except the tip of the finger. The tip of the finger, you can touch everything except that tip of the finger. Similarly, we are knowing everything through that reality, but that reality cannot be known as it is this. Okay, this is what the sense is. It will be, made clear in later verses. Yet we seem to have a wealth of attempted descriptions over time to give people clues for discovery of reality in their own practice. Indeed, although it is difficult to express, that's why there are so many clues given, so many clues or hints given. Even the teacher is here giving so many hints. All right. Let's go. Yes. Oh, sorry. Anand, go on. Please go on.
Maharaj, the knowing that Guru is talking about in this one, is it like the Paravidya and the Aparavidya that's mentioned in Gita?
Yeah, sure. We can always think of in that way. Okay. But in our everyday experience, if we analyze our experience, knowledge means we and we are knowing something, right? There is an object.
Right.
There is an
Yeah.
object of knowledge. So Guru, and the teacher is trying to, at the very beginning, making the ground ready that it is not any that kind of knowledge. Okay, not that kind of knowledge, because as I said in the previous verse, Guru gave some indications, right? That it is it is mind of the mind, eye of the eye. So the next thing will be, okay, so how can I know it? So the way you know other things, you cannot know this thing. Okay, this is the emphasis of this verse. That is why the Guru is telling, we do not know it. We do not know it because we are it. We are it. Since we are it, we cannot know it. Okay, we shall see the next verse will point to it. Okay, so let's move on to the next verse. Can we? All right. 1.4. This is also paradoxical. Anyat eva tat viditāt. Atho aviditāt adhi. Iti śuśruma pūrveṣāṃ. Ye naḥ tat vyācacakṣire. That spiritual entity, eva, is indeed anyat, different from viditāt, the known. Atho, moreover, adhi, it is different from aviditāt, the unknown. It is different from known. It is different from unknown. Iti, this is what śuśruma, we have heard pūrveṣāṃ, from the previous teachers. Ye, who vyācacakṣire, instructed naḥ, us, tat, about that spiritual entity. That spiritual entity is indeed different from the known. Moreover, it is different from the unknown. This is what we have heard from the previous teachers who instructed us about the spiritual entity. So all of these will be available, in the shared docs. I have in fact already uploaded them. So you can go and get a look at it. Well, all right. So this is also a paradoxical verse. So the teacher is trying to hint at the spiritual entity in intriguing terms. Remember Upanishad? Remember Upanishad? Paradox?
Jati tanna jati.
Yes, what does it mean?
It moves and it doesn't move.
Right. And another paradox?
Near and far.
Right, near and far. Yes, it is near as well as far. Good. So language of paradox. So why, and we noted at that time, let's repeat it. Why paradoxical language is being used? Paradoxical language is being used to break the students' linear mode of reasoning, the logical reasoning. Okay. If this is so, that must be so. So if something is not known, means it is unknown? No, it is not only not known, it is also not unknown. Okay, paradox. So break the linear logic, the logical reasoning. Why? Interestingly, recently, Arthur C. Brooks, one of the writers I like, one of the psychologists who teaches in Harvard Business School, Arthur C. Brooks, he writes wonderful article in Atlantic, and his articles are all about spirituality. And he takes up ancient spiritual wisdom and backs it up with recently available data. Okay, I love his books, his writings. Arthur C. Brooks recently wrote an article in Atlantic on October last year, how to make life more transcendent, even if you are not religious. So he gives some suggestions. There he correctly notes one very important thing. He says, mystical experiences follow a different kind of reasoning. That is intuitive reasoning. This logical reasoning, logical analysis can never give someone, has not given most of us any mystical experience. Okay, mystical experience has a different kind of reasoning. Probably this is the reason why to engage the students' intuitive reasoning that the teacher is using intriguing, paradoxical language. Okay, so the idea is get out of your linear mode of reasoning to understand what I am trying to hint you at. Okay, so here is the bomb. What is the bomb? It is not known. Oh, that means it is unknown? No, it is not even unknown. Okay, not even it is unknown. So what the paradox is used here? The paradox used here is that spiritual entity is indeed different from the known, and it is different from the unknown. Different from the known means it is unlike any other known objects of the world. It is not like any other objects in the world. So the student will conclude, oh, it is then unknown. No, mantra says atho. Moreover, it is different from the unknown. That is different from even the unknown objects. It is neither known nor unknown. What does it mean? What could it mean? It is neither known nor unknown. What do you think?
You cannot use the mind to access it because known and unknown are functions for the mind. So you have to throw those tools away. They don't work.
Okay, good one. Any other?
It is to be only experienced.
It is to be only experienced. So, so anything experienced is known, right?
It is beyond known and unknown.
Beyond
It is
known and unknown. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
It is there, but has to be discovered.
Okay.
It is the knower, it's neither the known nor the the unknown. It is the knower itself.
Yeah, its true nature.
Very good. Actually, this is what. Because, let's give us an example. So known thing, okay? Known thing. Say ice cream. Ice cream is a known thing. We have seen it, tested it, touched it. Maybe even someone has only seen a picture of it. heard about it. So it is a known thing. There could be unknown thing. Unknown thing. For example, there are many things which are now unknown to us because they have not been discovered. There could be, many minerals are being discovered, right? Which are unknown, right, to us. So is Brahman something like that, which is not known, but which can be discovered at some moment?
Maybe not recognized.
Yeah. So unknown means there are many, for example, say mobile phones were unknown 100 years ago. Okay. But what is common in known things and unknown things? Known things and unknown things. What is the common thing?
It's a subject.
It's perceivable, perception. They can be perceived.
They are knowable. Okay.
Mm.
They are knowable. Knowable means they are objects. They can be objectified. So when the teacher is saying it is neither known, oh, the student will say, oh, it is unknown. It has to be, it is something unknown, which is not yet discovered, or like Shankaracharya says something. Shankaracharya says unmanifest. It is not even the unmanifest, right? Unmanifest is called, before the universe came into existence, they were in a potential form, right? Potential form, that is, there was no physical universe, but it was in a potential form, in a seed form, which in Sanskrit called avyakta. Vyakta means manifested, avyakta means unmanifest. Okay. Shankaracharya says to deny that it is not even the unmanifest one, because unmanifest one is also part of nature. Unmanifest is not the knower. Okay, unmanifest is also an object. So if it is not knowable, it is not an object. So only thing that can be is, it is the subject. It is the knower. It is the experiencer, right? So this is only the knower or experiencer or the subject is the one who can never be objectified. Never be. So in another Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Viggataram are kedo vijānīyāt. Who will know the knower? Who can know the knower? Knower is the one who is knowing everything, who will know the knower. Okay, so the knower cannot be known. The teacher is telling the student, you cannot know the knower as you know other things. Okay, so here the knowing of the reality is not like knowing anything you know. Okay, that's why the knowledge, we say spiritual knowledge, strictly speaking, it is a conventionally we are telling spiritual knowledge or knowing who we are, but strictly we cannot say knowing. Okay, but we understand what we mean. It means I realize the thing. Even realize, knowledge, these things do not apply to it because it is beyond anything of our common experience. That is why the teacher is telling it is beyond known and beyond unknown. It is never an object of knowledge. So essentially the teacher is nudging the student to find out who is the knower, who is knowing everything. Try to find it out. Who is the knower? And if you can find out who is the knower, you will get answer to your questions that who drives the eyes, who drives the ears, who drive your sense organs, who drive your mind. Try to find out who is the eternal subject, who is never an object, who is the eternal experiencer, never is experienced. Who is the knower? Who cannot be known? Okay, try to find that out. And the teacher says, this is what we have heard from the previous teachers. So here, interestingly, this is not only the conclusion and experience of the present teacher, but it is also what has been traditionally handed down from teacher to student. The teacher is telling, this is what we have learned from previous teachers. What we have learned from previous teachers, that it is neither known nor unknown. Okay, so it does not mean, though, that the teacher has not has experience. The teacher has experience, but teacher is also giving more importance to that tradition of that guru shishya parampara, the student teacher relationship. Okay, so what the teacher is basically trying to say, that a competent teacher is needed to understand this entity, spiritual entity, to take this formidable journey of discovery, who is driving force behind us. Secondly, the one is competent teacher. Secondly, that competent teacher should be part of a tradition. That is, that teacher was also instructed by someone, and that one teacher was also instructed by someone. Okay, a good, as we to give you a very known example, which may sound crude. While purchasing a dog, we go for the breed, the pedigree, right? What they call pedigree. So probably that is what the teacher is hinting. This is what we have heard from our teachers. Okay, that means it's not only our own experience, but this is what has been handed down to us. All right. Okay. Before I go on to the next important section, let me see what questions I have got. When we have intuitive or spiritual experience, as we will have, we can agree it comes from the heart space, not the brain mind. It is mysterious and we are inspired by it. It is the knower expressing itself to us directly. It is often thrilling and we want more. Indeed, the experience comes from heart space, if we are allowed to say so. Heart space, not through intellectualizing or analyzing. Even secular knowledge may be subject to this. Yes, that teacher, yes, important. Now, am I becoming, what is the term, bigoted when I saying that teacher-student relationship is important? So no. Why in this kind of knowledge we need a teacher and a tradition? In fact, I wrote an essay, very interesting essay, some 8-9 years back when I was in India, and the essay was about tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge. In the context of value educations, I wrote because why value education fails. Value education, in spite of a lot of effort, earnest effort by governments, schools, colleges, value education fails. Why it is so? I try to understand it through the concept of tacit knowledge. There are two types of knowledge. One is explicit knowledge, which can be written down, instructed, codified, which is called know what knowledge. Know what. And another knowledge is tacit knowledge, which cannot be expressed, cannot be written down, cannot be verbalized. Okay. For example, when we are driving cars. Now, if somebody asks us, how do you drive a car? How difficult it will be to explain how I drive a car. How difficult it will be verbalized, or say biking. We have learned biking. So somebody asks, how do you ride a bike? Bicycle, bike. Is it possible in words to give how to ride a bicycle? It can only be learned through practice and learning from others. And the one thing about when we are learning such type of things, especially things which are related to creativity, music, pursuits, we need a person, not only the written guidance or step-by-step guide. We need a person whom we trust. One most important thing is trust. Okay. If I don't trust the person who is teaching me how to ride a bike or how to drive a car, I cannot learn it. Most of my part will be spent, most of my mental energy will be spent. Can I trust that person? Can I trust that person? So this kind of knowledge and spiritual knowledge is definitely one of the toughest tacit knowledge, which cannot be learned through books. Books will always give us indication. We need someone who has had experience. And that person, a one-to-one contact, that person, because tacit knowledge is also very much personalized and depends on context. That's why a same teacher can guide two students entirely differently, with the aim of sending both the students to the same goal. But depending upon the mental makeup of the student, the teacher might recourse to different course of path, chart out to different courses of path. For that, this intimate relationship of teacher and student is necessary. Okay, unlike other so-called secular subjects. So that is why the teacher, in fact, you will remember in Upanishad also, twice it was mentioned that iti śuśruma adhiranam. This is what we have heard from the dhira, the wise ones who taught us. So look at it, the teacher here is never asserting, look, I have experienced it, and this is why you should take my words. More importance is given that this is what we have been instructed by the wise ones. This is not to minimize the value of personal experience, not to minimize, but not only my personal experience, it is validated by a succession of teachers. Sometimes in spiritual life, we can have many experiences, but that should also be tallied, should be validated by other spiritual masters. They would say, yes, there was something. For example, I give you an example. It happened with one of our monks. So one of our monks, it's a long time ago, had some experience and went to Swami Shivananda, who was his guru. So he said, Swami, I have realized Brahman, the ultimate. So Shivananda says, do you have any little bit of doubt about it that you have realized Brahman? The Swami said, I think I have a little bit of doubt. Then Swami Shivananda says, then you have not. Then you have not. Although he encouraged that go on, practice. But this thing, that when he said, yeah, probably I have a little bit of doubt whether that was the highest real, then he said, the defining characteristic of ultimate experience is you will not have any doubt it will be crystal clear to you about the experience. Okay. So I told this only to say that, of course, the teacher here is very competent and he knows what he or she is teaching to the student, has experience, but at the same time, they are also emphasizing that this is what has been handed down to us from previous line of teachers. Okay, so what is the summary of our today's class? The spiritual wisdom is a tacit knowledge and esoteric knowledge, so the need for a teacher and a tradition. And the summary of our class today, summary of mantras 1.3 and 1.4 is this. The teacher is telling the student that mysterious entity about which you have inquired is such that the ears, the eyes, the mind cannot reach it. It is not knowable like other objects. It is also difficult to instruct about that reality. It is neither known nor unknown. It is the subject, the knower, the experiencer, that is the consciousness principle. This is what we have learned from our teachers. And if we add mantra number 1.2, having realized this entity, one becomes aware of their infinite dimension. Okay. Then there will be a series of mantras which will be styled in the same pattern. And very much, we require very close reading of what that means. If we understand one of these mantras, we can understand rest 8 or 9 of the mantras because they are fashioned in the same style. Okay. Okay, go ahead and ask any question or ideas, share any ideas about this last verse.
Swamiji, if I can make a comment.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Sure.
I find it interesting how the words like I, mind, speech are being used in different ways throughout in the last three. For example, we hear, it is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. Clearly, the same word has different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's the year of the year. This is verse 2. Doesn't mean the
ear
physical ear. It's like an inner ear. And then even in this verse 4, one hand we are saying it's beyond the senses. It doesn't explicitly mention hearing. It talks about the eye cannot see it.
Ear cannot, mind cannot.
Speech, not mind. But you can extrapolate. It could also say, and the ear cannot hear it. At the same time, we're saying that thus we have heard from our predecessors. So, the hearing from the teacher of the knowledge is the way it's at least hinting that's how we acquired this knowledge through our, sensory apparatus, the hearing. So I find it interesting how, is it limitation of the language where the same word is being used in so many different ways, or is intentional to make us think that, and maybe I'll just say one more thing. It says it's beyond what is unknown. It almost sort of seems to I mean, of course, this predates science, the modern scientific investigation, but it almost seems to suggest that science will never cross this chasm. It's beyond the unknown. No amount of progress in science and engineering will ever crack this case.
Beyond the unknown, yes, because science is always after the unknown.
Correct.
But it is not only not known, it is also not unknown. Beyond the unknown.
Science will never be able to shed light on this in some sense.
Yeah, science with science which tries to objectify the outer world. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we call that, this spiritual pursuit is also a science. Spiritual pursuit, wider definition of the fundamental. You are meaning the fundamental science, the particle physics or things
classical
like classical science.
Yeah, just some thoughts.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Now this is the thing. That they say the best way to instruct about that reality is silence. Silence. Nothing can be said about that. But then, what will happen? The teacher is sitting in silent, and the students is also sitting in silent. So that student has to come to that level when silence will convey, not silence, but the profundity of that reality. But until then, what we can do, we have to take recourse of these available instruments, speech or seeing or reading, right? Or the help of the mind to understand. But ultimately, we have to go leave them behind to get to that reality.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
It is not a question, but Swami Dayanandaji used to say the Guru Parampara system is the GPS. Use your GPS.
Guru Parampara system, okay. Yes.
So all it requires is removing the obstacles, because you cannot really know it, you can objectify it. But if you question another,
Indeed. Actually, ultimate analysis, it is the thing which is already there. We are not only being aware as it is, okay, aware as it is. So what we have to do is to remove the obstacles to have that knowledge, okay, to have that knowledge. We shall definitely come to this discussion later on. Realizing our true nature, is it not also an experience? What should be the characteristic of it? It's a good question. Indeed, that is also an experience. Realizing our true nature is also an experience. Otherwise, how one can say anything about it, or how can we verify even about the existence of such a thing? It is also an experience, but it is unlike any other experience. Okay, that's where lies all the problem. It is because all the mystics are experiencing the same infinite reality, and when they are trying to express it through the available language, what is happening? That available language is subject to culture, country, that particular person's upbringing, the religion they belong to. So all these are influencing the language through which that same reality is being expressed. Okay. So Sri Ramakrishna says that infinite reality can be said in infinite ways and can be reached in infinite ways. So choose your path, but don't say this is the only path. Because if the reality is infinite, it can be also approached in infinite ways. there cannot be only one way to reach an infinite thing. Okay, this will be dogmatism. So yes, to come to your question, yes, that's an experience also, but it is unlike any other experience. Okay, and what is the characteristic of it? The characteristic of it is hinted at. Nobody knows the experience, but one knows the effect that after having had it, one has permanent joy, permanent bliss, and the source of all the suffering. What is the source of all the suffering? That I am this finite little thing. That will be gone forever. Okay, that is the characteristic of that experience. So having realized it, does one become aware of one's infinitude or lack of finitude? Lack of finitude is infinitude. Okay, so these are all word games or language game, language game. Finite, lack of finitude or infinitude. Yeah.
Swami?
Yes, Rick, go ahead.
While you were talking, I thought to myself, known and unknown. If things that are known have a meaning, and the meaning has a boundary, and so you know it. The knower has no boundary. So now, if something is unknown, is that the boundary of that thought? Does the thought of it being unknown become its boundary? The boundary between the knower and the field of objects? Just the thought that there is an unknown. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think you are approaching, that could be in a sense, but I believe what this mantra particularly wanted to say, that known things or unknown things, whatever it is, both are knowable. Okay, in that sense, it's said. Okay, but the reality you are seeking is not knowable. You got it?
Is not say again?
The reality you are seeking is not knowable. It is the knower. It is the knower. It is not knowable. Got it?
Well.
Okay. Intuit about it. Yeah. We can discuss when we meet. Okay, about the boundary.
Take me off.
All right. Then let's do a little meditation, guided meditation.